Thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, and I just got back from a trip to Lisbon, Portugal, and hoo boy, was I not prepared for the sheer amount of LEGO experiences, from used shops to official stores, that they have in Portugal. So I had a fantastic time hunting for used LEGO, new LEGO, strange LEGO experiences, everything LEGO related, because this was personally my first time in Portugal, and every time I go to a new place, one of my main goals is to check out what sorts of LEGO shops they have to offer and what the LEGO scene is. So definitely, I'm super excited to share all of this with you, so let's just jump right into things and we'll kick things off with one of the first experiences I found.
Alright, so as I mentioned, this past week I had a few days to spend in Lisbon, Portugal. Amidst the sightseeing and exploring throughout the beautiful city, there was of course one major thing on my mind. A hunt for the best LEGO retailers, small stores, tucked away treasures, and I was on a mission to discover just what the city had to offer when it comes to LEGO. And so I took car, I took tram, I took bus, I even took tuk-tuk, all on a hunt for more LEGO. After a week in the city and basically every single LEGO destination visited, you can probably now see this as a comprehensive guide, a LEGO Masters expert tour, so to speak, of the best places to shop for LEGO in Lisbon, Portugal. I want to preface this by explaining some of my main motivations and things I was looking out for on this trip. Since I keep up to date on every modern LEGO set, I wasn't really interested in finding any recent items from the past few years. It's also usually much cheaper to buy modern LEGO here in the US than any other country, so that was another reason to keep my hands off anything modern or recent. Instead, I was much more keen on finding hidden treasures and lost gems, rare, discontinued LEGO sets that slip through the cracks of my collecting at retail value, hopefully cheaper than Bricklink. And I had good reason to believe I'd find something special. On a recent cruise around Italy, for instance, my friends and I stumbled upon an underground train-themed LEGO store, with age-old sets priced far less than Bricklink tucked away in the darkness of a literally abandoned subway station. In the mountainous regions of Austria, after a day-long trek around ice caves, we stopped for lunch in a small town and I encountered a dusty old toy shop, selling sealed Exoforce, Vikings, and Bionicle G1 sets at a heavy discount. On a connecting flight to Dubai, I encountered some Chima sets. Singapore was rich with used and new LEGO shops with fantastic selections, and even Amsterdam had some secret LEGO shops of its own. But there's one other LEGO-related thing I focus on during every trip to Europe, and that's the magazines. I talked about these at length in a recent video covering one of my other trips to London, but essentially LEGO has a publishing deal in Europe to release magazines based off of their most popular themes: Ninjago, Star Wars, Superhero, City, Jurassic World, Friends, and more. Even Bionicle had a short-lived magazine back in 2016. But what's really cool about these magazines is that they all come with a special minifigure or build, and more often than not, these magazine gifts are the perfect ways to get incredibly desirable LEGO minifigures for an extremely cheap price. Just take a look at this upcoming magazine, which features Scuba Nia, a figure once thought exclusive to the $130 Hydro Bounty. As we cover my journey in this video, definitely refer to the description below where I'll be linking every single place visited with their address, so if you're in town or planning a visit, all the information is there for you. And as usual, I'll be showcasing the trip's LEGO haul at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. And without further ado, let's jump right into things. Naturally, the first LEGO-themed shop we hit wasn't even in Portugal at all. It was instead at a layover in Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, which actually has a dedicated toy store focused on LEGO. While of course there wasn't too much to see here and the oldest set featured was a LEGO Movie 2 set from 2019, it was still fantastic to be greeted with a LEGO-themed storefront the moment I entered a new country. And of course, at the magazine shop right next door, I was able to pick up a couple of unique LEGO magazines, all of course with exclusive gifts. From there, it was a short flight to Lisbon, Portugal. After getting our bearings, I was resolved to adjust to the time zone the only way I know how, by forcing myself to stay awake while hunting for LEGO. After dropping off my luggage at the Intercontinental Hotel in Lisbon, which served as the base of operations for this LEGO hunt extravaganza, within walking distance was the first stop, Spanish department store El Corte Ingles, featuring clothing, even more clothing, and a fully dedicated LEGO department with all the newest sets and offerings. Now, I had been to this department store in Spain before, so I wasn't expecting too much, and sometimes it's good to start off with something a little vanilla to kick things off and get comfortable with the new location. But this store truly blew me away. featuring basically every single LEGO set currently available, bar none. See, in Portugal, LEGO doesn't have any official retail stores, so all their direct-to-consumer sets went to stores like these. For all intents and purposes, this was like a standard retail LEGO store, just like the ones we have here in the States, just much, much larger. I was particularly impressed with the fantastic spread they had for the 18+ LEGO sets, which was probably one of the best presentations for the theme I've seen yet. Stylish black boxes highlighted the beautiful display models in clear cases, with the set designer's in-depth video playing on the screen above. This was really beyond even any official LEGO store display, and already we were off to a great start. And while I didn't personally purchase anything, after all the oldest sets there were from the Overwatch 2019 theme, I would definitely recommend it for purchasing any of the newest LEGO offerings, especially if you live in the area with no other LEGO store nearby, or if you manage to do the math right, and if you're an international traveler, you can actually get up to 22% off on a VAT refund since you're traveling internationally, so there are actually some deals to be had. But anyways, from the El Corte Ingles department store, the next stop was something far, far more interesting. The time for vanilla set perusing was over, and now it was time to spice things up. A short 15-minute drive away was Mundo dos Tijolos, a local LEGO specialty store. And that was when I truly was blessed by the LEGO gods. On the drive there, out of nowhere, the driver turned around and struck up a conversation about LEGO and how his son collects LEGO cars. Now when he said this, I was picturing City, maybe a dash of Creator Expert, but no, dude just turns around and shows a rack of Technic supercars. From the Lambo to the Bugatti, this guy was a hardcore collector, and he gave me an excellent tip. To all outside visitors, the store will appear fully locked. The lights will be off, nobody will be inside, it will look completely closed. But pop your head inside its neighbor, an Alliance insurance store, and ask for LEGO, and magically, the shop owner will appear. Grateful for this local wisdom, I left the car, and sure enough, the specialty store appeared closed, and only after seeking aid from inside the insurance shop was the door unlocked, and I was free to bask in the wonders within. But at first glance, everything seemed ordinary, almost boring in its selection. Now don't get me wrong, the store had a fantastic display of LEGO sets packed floor to ceiling, complete with Portuguese LEGO catalogs and the biggest direct-to-consumer sets, but aside from a small used minifigure display case, there weren't many old sets to be found. So then I figured, why not just ask? And behold, despite most of the communication being in Portuguese, 2 words stood out: Bricklink Store. After some quick on-the-fly Google translating, I was navigated to Martin's store on Bricklink, featuring a full inventory of the hidden away, long-discontinued LEGO sets the store had to offer. Only problem was, they were a lot more expensive than usual. Even when compared against the other sealed sets in Europe and keeping shipping in mind, prices were fairly high, for the most part. Thankfully, a few gems stood out.
Alright, with some rare LEGO items secured, it's time to go on to our next stop. Let's go!
One being a random Legends of Chima Polybag I failed to pick up circa 2014, and the other being a sealed Knight's Kingdom set, the very one I needed to complete my full collection of the theme, and at reasonably competitive prices. And beyond that, there was one other item that caught my eye, a LEGO House exclusive chef minifigure that comes with a kids meal. But since I'm making a trip out to Bill in Denmark soon, I honestly just decided to pass on that particular rarity. And so, with my choices made, I watched as the shopkeeper descended into an adjacent storage unit and present my 2 rare LEGO sets of the day. With the bargaining done, there was still a lot of things to do and places to go. And so, summoning yet another Uber, I journeyed just another 15 minutes away to one of the biggest malls in Portugal, Centro Vasca de Gama, boasting 2 dedicated toy stores and much more. My first stop was on the basement level of the mall, a 2-in-1 combo special of a unique dedicated LEGO wear shop and a local toy store called O Papagaio sem Penas, and please excuse my pronunciation of that. Now this was particularly promising to me, as initial research had yielded some fascinating results. I love the internet. A photo posted by the store owner just 11 months ago of the storefront showcased one of the rarest Star Wars Rebel sets from 2016, the Imperial Carrier with an exclusive Sabine Wren figure with helmet. Upon further inspection, and perhaps my eyes were playing tricks on me and I was seeing things I just wanted to see, but juxtaposed against the newest 2020 set offerings were a couple of Bionicle G2 Skull Villain sets, barely pixelated amidst a sea of clutter. But a lot can change in 11 months, and when I arrived at the store, I was disappointed to see that they did indeed have one long discontinued LEGO set, a Star Wars playmat from 2012 with no actual LEGO pieces included. Sadly, aside from some older collectible minifigures like a Batman movie series 2-pack, the store was devoid of any older LEGO items, just featuring a slightly smaller selection of modern LEGO sets. But that was only half of what this mall had to offer, for across the hallway from this local toy shop was, as I mentioned, the official LEGO Wear retailer, featuring both LEGO sets, LEGO clothing, and just random non-branded kids clothing for children in one of the only LEGO Wear retail stores I've ever encountered. Inside the store, I was greeted with a bizarre mishmash of old and new. Minifigure sculpts from the 1990s loomed from the shelves, taunting me with long discontinued prints and designs. Modern LEGO sets stood stacked on the back wall, mixed with both LEGO-themed and completely generic children's clothing. At the center of it all was a glorious display, an intact 2012 Monster Fighter spread with a full assembled vampire castle to boot. Alongside this practically ancient relic were two more displays, an original Ninjago 2011 Dragon vs. Skulkin layout and an equally ancient City Firefighter spread. All of which, to my chagrin, were certifiably, definitely 100% not for sale. So maybe the two stores at Vasco da Gama were a bust. But just as I was about to leave the mall, I kid you not, I stumbled upon what may have been one of my greatest LEGO discoveries this entire trip. And unlike most of the rest of this video, this is not hyperbole. I am not joking when I say this was probably one of my greatest finds on the trip for personal reasons. This one's gonna need a little explanation. Back in 2017, I was on a cruise around Europe when I stumbled upon this bizarre LEGO Ninjago trading card game. I had never seen anything like it in the US, and at first glance, the cards seemed useless to me. What use was collecting some random, somewhat off-brand, adjacent-line LEGO-themed trading cards? But that was before I realized there was actually a game to it. They weren't merely cards to collect for the sake of collecting, God knows I do that too much already. There was actually a point to collecting them. In fear of this video transforming into a full-on sponsorship, endorsement, and tutorial for the LEGO trading card games, I'm gonna keep this quick and simple. The Ninjago trading card game is unironically one of the most engaging and entertaining two-player card games, or just games in general, I've ever experienced in my life. Sold only in certain regions of Europe, read mostly Germany, the trading card game is themed around Ninjago's yearly one-half-year releases. Again, I won't bother explaining the rules in this video because that's a whole nother video to itself, but I'll sum it up by saying the game requires the perfect mix of strategy, luck, and chaos, and is honestly one of the best bonding experiences with friends I've ever enjoyed. Friendships have been built and utterly destroyed on the backbone of this insane game. I've introduced the trading card game to my close friends, and over the past summer, a friend of mine had practically weekly sessions of games, which could sometimes run for hours on end on just this Ninjago trading card game. I'm actually fairly convinced I probably own the largest collection of these cards in the world, which, I'm not gonna lie, isn't really that much of an accomplishment because I'm also fairly convinced I'm literally the only person collecting them, and I'm single-handedly keeping the budget going for this line to continue. I'm not even joking, search these up on eBay and you get like 10 results, all from Germany. It's that niche. Bricklink and Brickset don't even acknowledge these as official LEGO products, so it's not like I can even buy them from there. I either have to pay these scalper prices on eBay or just travel to Europe and find them myself. There are two big problems though. First off, these cards are nearly impossible to find. You can maybe get lucky at some sort of pharmacy or magazine shop, but for the most part, it's really hit or miss. Most retailers just will not sell them because why can I blame them? They probably don't honestly sell too well. The second problem is that the fact, for the most part, all the cards that I own are not in English. The series was launched in the UK, but as far as I can tell, lasted only throughout 2017 until being canned for poor sales. While the series is still alive and well in other parts of Europe, that also means that the vast majority of my cards are also incomprehensible to myself and most of my friends at first glance, and, well, every glance. And every card game requires two phones with a decent internet connection, Google Translate loaded up, and a fair bit of argument over what exactly the card is trying to say. Now, the argument can be made, and my friends and I have justified this, that the cards being in a completely different language actually adds to the fun and chaos, but after you've translated your 100th card of the day, it gets a little tiring. I have Dutch cards, German cards, Polish cards, Swedish cards, French cards. Je parle un peu de français, but not a lot of English cards. So you might be wondering, but Chris, you are in Portugal, so won't the cards be in Portuguese? And you would be correct. However, I happen to have a friend who speaks fluent Portuguese, so at least I can play it with them and be the only one to suffer with Google Translate. That brings us back to Vasco da Gama Mall, where on my way out I stumbled across a simple newsstand and card shop. Dimly lit and set apart from the rest of the stores, it's something I could have easily missed, and almost did. Inside the store, I found some more LEGO-themed magazines, and just as I was checking out, I happened to crane my head back to the stockroom, and in the corner of my eye, I spied a small, shoved-away box full of the latest island-themed series of Ninjago trading cards. And so, with the day considered a raging success, I headed back to the hotel room some 50 euros poorer, but some 300 Ninjago cards richer. And honestly, who is there to put a monetary value on fun times in a good card game? I mean, come on, I totally didn't just waste close to $60 on cardboard. Right? Anyway, with the treasures from the day tucked away and all the cards sorted and accounted for, my next stop was honestly purely by accident. I had planned for a wholesome, non-LEGO, pure sightseeing day, but the plastic beckoned me once again, and after a visit to a beautiful cathedral several hours out from Lisbon, I couldn't help but notice a toy store only 10 minutes walk away on Google Maps. A store in a location so obscure, it was bound to have something special. It had to. And so, in Fatima, Portugal, hours away from home base, I stumbled into a local toy shop called Pequenos e Graudos, and to my utter joy, the first thing that greeted me was a sealed Technic set from 2017, the glorious Air Race Jet. There was only one problem. I had paid exorbitant second-hand prices for a used copy of the set not 4 months ago at a used LEGO store in California. But wait, because there was more, for the seller had a full selection of some of the oldest LEGO collectible minifigure series, featuring the Monsters, Series 11 to 15, and more, all at retail prices. But there was another problem. I own all the LEGO collectible minifigures. And so I sadly parted way with this fantastic store full of oddities and rarities, for there was nothing new to acquire. And honestly, that's not the store's fault, this one's on me. Thankfully, the rest of the day was spent LEGO-free, with no shops to tantalize or tempt me along the way to an ancient castle, where I got some great photos of minifigures in the wild, but didn't spend a single dime on a new LEGO set. Unless you count the magazine stall, where I found a ton more LEGO magazines and a few more Ninjago cards, but I'm talking about sets here. Didn't spend a single dime on a new LEGO set. That statement was not true for my next and final day of LEGO shopping. Thus far, I had ventured east and northeast of the hotel, but what treasures lay to the northwest and south? Bright and early, I set off on a 15-minute Uber ride to one of the largest malls in Portugal, Colombo's shopping center, with the main attraction being a full-size Toys R Us. Reports of its death have been greatly exaggerated, for Toys R Us is alive and well in Portugal, as well as basically every other part of the world other than the US, and even here it's making a comeback. And inside this Toys R Us, I made one of the best discoveries of this entire journey. Sitting at the bottom of the shelf, waiting for me, in a beat-up, resealed, and retaped box, was set number 42077, Rally Car from 2018. Which, honestly, doesn't even seem that old, but that was 3 going on 4 years ago. I don't know, time sure flies during a global pandemic. And just another note about this store. In classic Toys R Us fashion, they were selling sets early, specifically the remake of the UCS-style tumbler, which, by the time this video comes out, is definitely already available worldwide, but at the time I visited was really ahead of schedule. Toys R Us never change. Keep breaking those street dates, and please come back to the US. I really miss my early street date breaking runs. Before I left Colombo Mall, there was one last destination to hit. Surprisingly enough, the grocery store. Yes, this mall was big enough that the grocery store in the basement had a full range of LEGO sets. And while the sets weren't anything special, it was honestly just really cool to see a full assortment of LEGO sets amidst a standard grocery store. And of course, I picked up a few more magazines before I left. But next on the list was a very promising sounding LEGO Fan Factory. Now, as I mentioned, there aren't any retail LEGO stores in Portugal, so I was hoping this so-called Fan Factory would be something truly special, along the lines of a Legoland Discovery Center selling some of the strangest LEGO products. So after taking a quick drive from Colombo Mall to UBBO Mall, it was only around 7 minutes, you can imagine my sheer horror when I discovered that this LEGO fan factory, advertised, may I add, on Google Maps as a toy store, was little more than a glorified, barely LEGO-themed playground for children. I mean, what absolute monster does that? Imagine all the kids in a LEGO-themed playground, enjoying the large-scale bricks and yearning for more, then cutting off their supply for the brick. I mean, that's just evil and bad business practice. Why make a LEGO playground and not sell LEGO sets nearby? At least make a stall or something. Gosh, my standards are rock bottom at this point. But thankfully, that was not the only thing UBBO Mall had to offer. After what was probably one of the worst LEGO-related blue balls of my life, I stumbled upon Marvel Mission, an exclusively Marvel-themed VR escape room that, if I had more time, I absolutely would have tried. Why do I mention this? Well, because within the shop was an assortment of basically every single LEGO Marvel set currently available, including some now retired offerings from past MCU films. It was nothing I didn't already own, but after the utter disappointment of LEGO Fan Factory, any sight of sealed LEGO boxes put a smile on my face. On my way back to civilization, I hit up a second Toys R Us at Telyris Mall. Unfortunately, like most modern retailers, this Toys R Us destination wasn't too interesting. Sure, it had all the latest sets, but there wasn't anything particularly noteworthy or special about the selection. Again, the oldest sets there were from Overwatch. Guess that theme really didn't perform too well, which is a shame as I think the designs and minifigs are pretty top-notch. Before I left, because I have a crippling addiction to plastic and to justify to myself for making the trip out there, I purchased a City Polybag for the sole purpose of getting another copy of the excellent newer style Fire Axe, which, in my defense, is admittedly a really cool accessory. But anyways, with the Technic rally car secured at retail price and hundreds of Ninjago cards, odds and ends, and magazines in tow, the final few days in Lisbon were spent sightseeing and stumbling upon random middle-of-nowhere magazine stalls and shops on the constant hunt for the brick. In Misericordia, I encountered a magazine stand selling backlog issues from 2019 and before, which was a great way to get duplicates of one-off minifigures and older issues. On the same street, I bargained for a massive bundle of mystery Ninjago magazine packs, only to receive 2 pairs of 3 copies of the same magazine. You win some, you lose some. And after a quick trip to one last Toys R Us location at Alameda Forum south of my hotel, which funnily enough had hidden side sets but not much else, the trip was finally coming to an end. And on my last destination, a grocery store to stock up on supplies, I encountered the final, smaller treasure trove of the trip. A pretty massive 60% off sale on LEGO, featuring some of the newly released City Stunt sets, Marvel Infinity Saga, and yeah, LEGO Video. After such a low price, I couldn't pass up getting multiple copies of what's one of my favorite minifigures of the year, the Video Metal Dragon with fantastic molded wings and head plus arm printing that could fit in for several fantasy applications. And with that, the trip was over. With 14 unique destinations hit, this trip sure was a productive one. With the highlights being the LEGO Specialty Store, that one Toys R Us with the retired Technic set, and the oh so glorious magazine shop selling Ninjago card packs in bulk, my LEGO Lisbon shopping journey was over. And you know what time it is now? Haul time! Since we already have it pulled up, might as well start off with the amazing card haul for the Ninjago trading card game. I was really happy to find this many cards. I may have gone a little overboard, we may have gone too far in a few places getting the Ninjago cards, but I certainly cannot wait to play the game with all my friends. My deck size has doubled since the last time I played, so I certainly am very excited. Of course, alongside the cards were a host of magazines. This was probably one of the trips that I took that I got the most magazines on, mostly because of the sheer amount of different magazines they had available. In Portugal, I got very lucky and stumbled upon a lot of older back issues, because you see, typically, there's really only going to be one magazine available per theme, maybe 2 if I get lucky and see the previous month's issue, but really I usually only get just 1 per theme. However, this time I found a ton of back issues, so I actually got a lot of the magazines that I never actually was able to get because my Europe trips are fairly infrequent, so I do miss out on fairly large chunks of time where I just do not get to pick up the LEGO magazines. Particularly during quarantine, I did not leave my house, so I never actually got really any magazines during COVID from Europe because I never went to Europe in 2020. So it was really great to actually find a lot of the 2020 backlog issues over here in Lisbon, Portugal, so I could actually finish up my collection and get some of the ones that I missed, and get some of the minifigures and accessories that I really wanted as well. And speaking of those accessories, I have them all lined up right here, fully built. There is a very wide assortment of these, some of my favorites being the Ninjago minifigures. They had a really good variety this time. One of them even included the new titanium Zane hairpiece, which is really cool to get, so very happy I actually was able to get that. And even beyond that, there was quite a large selection of different magazines. You can see the magazines themselves in the back here. There's actually quite a large stack of them with all of the gifts removed. Now again, you will see some duplicates here, mostly because of the mystery packs. I really had bad luck for the 2-pack magazine mystery packs and got a lot of duplicates, but it is still nice. Some of the duplicates were actually good to get, like some of the Sons of Garmadon members, and there actually were some pretty cool packs here, like for example, the DC magazine featured Robin with mid-legs, which is one of the newer Robin variants and one of the rarer ones too. And it's always cool to get mid-legs in a new LEGO set of any way, shape, or form. Unfortunately, due to heat, the Flash's cowl was really bent, kind of looks now like that Ezra Miller cowl from the new movie, and there were some errors here and there. For instance, they were missing some pieces for the Sons of Garmadon chainsaw in one of them, but for the most part, they were pretty accurate. I do know the quality control on the magazine gifts is a little bit lower than standard LEGO for whatever reason. Sometimes they're missing pieces, so that's what you get, but you can see the full range of all the gifts here, some nice builds, and a ton of magazines. Just in case you're curious about what kinds of things are actually featured in these magazines, you can see me flip through a few of them right now. A lot of them are mostly just activities for kids. They of course have a ton of comics scattered throughout. The magazines also have large posters in the center, which are really cool. This one in particular is actually a pretty sweet render of the Prime Empire Ninja vehicles. Pretty cool to see that kind of a metallic sheen on all their vehicles, but again, for the most part, a lot of these are just basic activity sheets for kids, but still fun to flip through and read through, and especially the comics themselves sometimes do add a few fun things to Ninjago lore in particular. At the end of every magazine, they showcase the next magazine's gift, which is how we know what some of the future ones will be. This one strangely advertises art from possession, but we can move on from that. There's still a lot of different ones here. I even found one from all the way back in 2018 for the Sons of Garmadon, so you can see a much older magazine here. Kind of interesting, just kind of flipping through the comics. You can see the history of Garmadon, it appears, in one of the comics here, so kind of cool just to see whatever random things that they actually do decide to include within the sheets of these magazines. And of course, the actual posters themselves are really cool because a lot of times they draw from the season posters or the artwork that's used in the show, and they're always really fun times to actually flip through and go through the magazines themselves. One of the funniest things these magazines do is seemingly advertise long discontinued sets and minifigures in the most modern magazines. For instance, this is the most recent issue. You can see advertisements for the island and whatnot, but advertised in this LEGO Ninjago magazine from 2021 is a large, full-page, multi-page spread focusing on Samukai, the four-armed Skulkin leader, who has not appeared in a set since 2011 and is notably absent from the LEGO Ninjago Legacy line of sets. It's really funny how they literally dedicate several pages to showcasing Samukai. A lot of these are brand new renders they created. I mean, some of these are not renders they made in 2011. Someone actually went and rendered this out in 2021. I don't know why this much emphasis has been put on something that a lot of people just simply cannot get. In fact, if you go on Bricklink, you're gonna have to pay like $40 to get him, but I just kind of find it funny how the magazines seem a little out of touch with what's actually available for kids these days, so it's a little unfortunate with that regard, but still funny for me as an AFOL to experience. One other thing that's a little different from the magazines is this little booklet for stickers. They also have these collectible sticker packs you can buy for like 80 cents each. I just thought it was kind of cool how they have really interesting artwork across all of these seasons of Ninjago in this one sticker booklet. Again, this does not exist in the US. I haven't even seen this outside of Portugal, but I just thought it was kind of cool to see, especially this fire and ice thing for season 11. This artwork actually looks really cool. So you can see as I flip through the rest of the book, they've actually covered every season for whatever reason, starting with the Day of the Departed, going all the way up to season 13, Master of the Mountains. So just another cool kind of strange thing that you can really only get in Europe and I guess Portugal. And moving on past the magazines and magazine gifts, of course the next actual official LEGO set that I got was 2 copies of the LEGO Video Metal Dragon Beatbox. I actually was able to get 3 in total because I already had one when it first came out, so thankfully the instruction manual proposed 3 different alternate builds on the back, so I figured why not just do all 3. I also swapped out some parts from Nexo Knight's villains for one of the dragons to make it seem like a more fantasy-esque creature and not actually have the metal t-shirt printing on it and jeans, which I felt actually really worked out for this particular character. But there's not too much else to say here, so let's move on. Another small LEGO item I got from the specialty store was this Chima Polybag featuring Gorzan and his walker. This was originally released in 2014 to coincide with the Outlands Jungle sub-theme of sets, so just kind of an interesting thing to see. Again, this was just one of the polybags I happened to miss out on. I don't religiously collect every single polybag, but if I find one in the wild I don't own, I will buy it, so that's why I got this one. It's also kind of cool to just be building a Chima set in 2021. It's been ages since I've actually put one of them together, so it's just kind of a nice thing to do, especially because I do own all of the standard retail Chima sets. This is just one of the extra ones I didn't own yet. And actually, after fully being built, it isn't actually that bad of a polybag. You can see it's a fully posable mech. He's actually got these large gorilla-like limbs and the blaster arms up on top, which of course accentuate the minifigure itself. Sure, it's very simple, but it gets the point across and is a fun little build, so nothing too much else to say here. Next up was the slightly more interesting, fully sealed Sir Jaco set from LEGO Knights Kingdom. This was the fairly short-lived run of Construction Knights sets that they did. Again, I do own every single one except for this one. I just wasn't able to find this one at a good price previously until I actually came across this fully sealed one. So first of all, it's super cool to just actually have one of these fully sealed sets that I'm opening up for the first time. Never actually opened one of these sealed, so it's cool to get this particular figure. I also really like this figure because of the silver armor pieces. I think it's a cool color and a good color combination to have the dark blue, the azure, and the silver color. So as you can see, as I tilt open the canister, the parts are literally just thrown in there. They were not in bags or anything. The parts were kind of just as is, with the manual tossed in as well. So kind of an interesting packaging thing. It's kind of very rare to see a LEGO set these days that just has the parts just sitting rattling around in loose in a canister. So it is interesting to see this particular build. Of course, after putting him all together, you can see that he has some of the most basic functions. You can just turn a gear on the back of the torso to swing his arm up and down on both the shield arm and the sword arm. And after we get him into a bit of a pose like he has on the front of the box here, you can see that this is a fairly good figure. My only complaint with these is that they are kind of difficult to pose because of the way the ratchet joints work. It's very hard to actually get a very solid grip on the ground, and it definitely doesn't help that the feet are so small and the armor pieces, as cool as they are, do restrict the motion on the legs and shins extremely badly. So they aren't the best action figures. They're really easy to topple over. It's kind of hard to get them into good poses, but for being a strange LEGO curiosity and kind of a strange odd set, I always do like it when LEGO does experiments like these, and I had to add this one to my collection.
Alright, so right here we have set number, finally, 42077, the LEGO Technic Rally Car from 2018. I was very excited to build this. So excited that when I brought it over here to college, I left the sticker sheet behind at my house. So unfortunately, you're going to be seeing the review of this or the quick look at this without the stickers, but I will be putting those on at some point. But for now, I'm just going to put this together and then we're going to take a look at the final product.
So the build for the rally car was a pretty standard LEGO Technic build. It came together fairly easily, but it was a fun one to do. I am really getting back into Technic because previously I wasn't too interested. It wasn't one of the LEGO themes I regularly collected, but I actually started to really appreciate them, especially with the large-scale supercars, and now I am on a quest to get all of the fantastic sets that I missed from a few years ago, hence why I did not already own this one. So taking a look at the set itself, of course, like pretty much every single car-based Technic set, it has full steering, not four-wheel drive, but still the front two wheels. Of course, the doors open and close just as you'd expect, and what's really nice is that the pistons move alongside the wheels. This is a feature that is pretty much prevalent in almost every single LEGO Technic car set. It's actually a pretty old feature. Some of the parts used in that are very old. They actually introduced that years ago, but as you can see, the pistons are fully moving as we move the car around. Now, taking a look at the back here, there actually is a pretty interesting function for this car. You can actually lift up the entire back, and it is fully axled up to actually make the side fairings of the car actually go sideways outwards. And the set itself also features full suspension on both the back side of the wheels and the front side, so it gets some really satisfying motion, especially if you're rolling this over rough terrain. It's really cool to see also the mechanisms that go into it. It's actually not the typical Technic car. You can see a lot of the longer red axles going through, kind of forming a roll cage and rib cage of the car itself. Kind of an interesting feature that not many Technic cars have. You can also see the back lifting up feature right here, so it is very smooth, it works very well. And of course, the side door opens on the driver's side as well, and you can see some of the red axles rolling through it, which definitely make this stand out apart from other Technic cars. Lifting the front of the hood reveals a fairly simple set of turbine engines or fans at the front here. Nothing really too fancy going on with that, but it's nice that they actually included some engine detail in the front, even if it's just the most simple turbines possible. And of course, you can see here is the final product. I'm fairly happy with it. It is a little bit boxy and there are a few gaps in between the fairings for the wheels, but it definitely is a very unique offering. It's not like most other Technic cars. It has the unique roll cage in the front. It's got a cool color scheme with the azure and the white and the red, so definitely something that really stands out and something that really is accentuated when I actually will eventually apply the stickers. But with that, we've summed up the entire Portugal LEGO haul.
Alright, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you did enjoy this look at all of the LEGO-related experiences Lisbon, Portugal has to offer. If you're a Portuguese LEGO fan, let me know down in the comments below. Have you ever experienced these yourselves? Or even if you've just visited on vacation, have you actually found one of these before as well? Thank you all so much for tuning in. I do hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly was not expecting to find just this many LEGO experiences in Portugal, and that makes me really excited for any new places to travel next because I can't wait to find even more strange LEGO stuff that I really never would have experienced without actually being there myself. Thanks all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video, and definitely stay tuned for more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks so much, and bye-bye for now.